So we're actually in the month of January right now when I'm editing this video, which a lot of these clips are from November and early December. I took the month off of December to spend with my family, so I'm just going to go back and kind of talk about some of the things that I did in November here and early December. So in my last video, when I was cleaning the rest of the garden up with leaves and laying all the stuff down, I mentioned that I was basically done in the garden for now, but that was I'm never done in the garden. So I actually talked about this lettuce row that I have, and it's always been a really troublesome row that I've had out of all the garden. Just because when we first moved here, I've mentioned before that we have horrible soil all around our house. It's like creek gravel, and it's so compact that you cannot put a shovel in it. So when we first put this garden in, we ordered some really bad compost. Long story short, I ended up ordering another load of really good soil that I got from a farm, and it's been the best soil that I have ever ordered. Well, the problem that I'm having is the bottom layer of the real soil that we have around our house is very compact, and it's not draining any of this water. It's just holding all the water. So I need to break up all of this good soil that I have and get it all air dried. So I'm just gonna have to eventually just turn this whole entire row into a raised bed. And I hate to do that, but I just know down the road it's just going to give me problems every year, because it has already gave me problems the past 2 years, and it has not grown hardly anything in this row the past 2 years. So it just needs to be turned into a raised bed. And a lot of the soil that I have here is like mud. I mean, you can see here it is just so muddy, and I just need it to air out. So I took the rest of the lettuce that was in this row, and I've been transplanting all of it into these raised beds that I have. Even though there's shorter daylight hours, the lettuce is growing really slow, but that'll change here hopefully in a couple weeks whenever the daylight savings happens again and we get more light. But they're still green. I go out there every day to check on it, and it's slow growing, but they're still green, so I think they'll be just fine. So I ended up taking all of that and putting it into these raised beds, and I took a lot of the compost and put around the lettuce. And what I ended up doing was, I actually didn't film this part, but I put up a barrier like from a shade cloth so the leaves won't get into the lettuce that I have here. So this is what it looks like whenever I transplanted everything. And then I literally just took the rest of the row, broke it all up, and made sure like all the air that I can get into this row to dry it out, because I don't want no fungus or anything forming into the soil just because it's just sitting in water constantly. And I just continue doing what I normally do. I put calcium in my soil. That's what my soil test needed, and I'm just working that all in, and hopefully it'll be just fine. So back in November, we are processing a lot of our deer that we have shot over in gun season. So back in November, when I filmed all this, this was gun season, and me and my husband like to hunt every year, and I got a deer and he got 2 deer. So here we're processing all of our deer meat, and let me tell you what, this takes forever to process your own deer meat, but it's totally worth it. Nowadays, it's just so expensive to get your deer processed at a processing plant, so we save so much money doing it ourselves. When we first got married, I mean, we always processed our own deer, and then we got to where we would turn it into the processing plant because it was just so much easier. But now it's very expensive, and we're going back to just processing it all of ourselves now. So what we do, we just go to the grocery store and we buy some beef fat, and we do like an 80-20, and we grind everything up together into the deer meat. And then I put them in these vacuum seal bags and get all the air out of them. And we do the exact same thing with the steaks. We just butterfly all the steaks and we just vacuum seal it and put it in the freezer. That way it stays good in the freezer and no air gets into there. So then I just take a Sharpie and then I write what it is and the year, so we can eat up the oldest meat first. And then we check the seal to make sure it is good and sealed before we put it in the freezer. And we usually do 2 pounds of ground meat for our family. That way it's easier. I don't have to get 2 out to defrost. And then we butterfly all of our steaks here. We do the exact same thing. We put them into these bags and get all the air out and make sure we are double checking on making sure the seal is completely sealed, because I've had some in the past come undone and get air in them. It would just get freezer burned and it'd be no good and it'd be just wasting the meat. So just taking the extra step to check the seals, make sure everything is good so no air can get down inside there. So when we put our garden in, we bulldozed a ton of trees in our backwoods just because we're trying to make a bigger pasture for our cows to graze on one day. And this is our second year working on cleaning all of this up. Here you can see some huge root balls full of dirt and just big old trees laid over. And what we're doing is my husband will delimb all of the limbs and me and the kids will take all of the brush and pile it up on these big old stumps so one day we can burn them all down as much as we can. And then we're trading out a bunch of this wood for hay this year, so we're getting to clean up everything that we can. We're working in sections, so this is the bottom lower section of our field, and now that I'm talking about this right now, we've got a lot more done since I've filmed this video. This was the lower section, and I think this past week now, here in January, we got a lot of the upper section worked on, and we still got the middle section of the field to completely finish, which we're moving right along. It is a ton of work, back-breaking work, but I know one day this will be a beautiful field and I cannot wait until this is all done. But for now, we are working so hard to get all of the brush that we can see on the ground and just piling it in piles. So one day we'll have a skid steer come over and completely level out this whole entire field for us so we can reseed with grass, and hopefully it'll become a really nice cow pasture and a really nice area if the kids want to go out there and play. There's probably 6 to 7 acres right here that we are working on. We're on the lower end of this hill. We live on a big hill, so this is probably the on the very bottom of the hill where we're working on here, but this is what it looks like so far, which I will have to show you guys what it looks like now because we have actually moved up a section on working the land, so I will definitely keep you guys updated on that.